Welcome to the NBAV podcast.
Welcome back to NBAV, the NBA Avenue podcast. We had 7 games of basketball happening last night on March 12th, 2024. We're not going to go through every single one, considering that some of them were a little less than interesting. But starting at the top, you had the New York Knicks finally welcoming back OG Anunoby. And if you are tuned into Knicks Twitter, they've been going crazy for days and weeks in anticipation of Anunoby's return. And they got all that they bargained for last night because the Knicks lost the previous matchup to the Sixers. And now this was the rematch that the Knicks now got back their player. The Sixers have Maxey on the court, but they are still missing Embiid. So now it's the Knicks' turn to go and take advantage of the opportunity, and they completely did that. They totally steamrolled the Sixers, and it's not the Sixers' fault, really. There's like absolutely nothing the Sixers can do. The Knicks are the much more talented team. With Anunoby, when you put him in the game, he is instant defense turning into offense. He's everything for them. He's a guy who the Knicks are half the team without him that they are with him. He's that important to everything that they do. And it's unbelievable to see just what a big difference this trade made for them. Not only with Anunoby, primarily with Anunoby, but also with Ochoa, who contributed 13 points in 24 minutes as well, with 8 rebounds. But the Knicks getting one of their most important players back, the only guy they're really missing now is Julius Randle, but yeah, Mitchell Robinson would be nice. It would be great to have him, but he's never really been healthy for his entire career. He typically misses more games than he plays, so I wouldn't really count him. But getting OG back is absolutely massive, and the Knicks showed that last night. The Sixers can't really do anything about it, and therefore the Knicks are able to stay firmly in the 4 seed. And as a result of the loss, and as a result of the Pacers also winning, the Sixers and the Pacers have now swapped. The Pacers move up to 6, and the 76ers move down to 7. So the plummet continues for the Sixers, as they are now in a play-in scenario, and the Pacers can now look, and we'll get to the Pacers in just a couple of moments. But I want to talk a little bit more about the Knicks and a little bit more about the Sixers. If you watch the Sixers play and you see the intensity and the skill that Tyrese Maxey has, he is one of the easiest players to throw a max contract at. He's a free agent this year. And this is a guy who's going to give you everything on the court and everything off the court. The guy has such a great demeanor and such a great he has his when you look at him, and I'm trying to think of the right way to explain this. It's like when you're conducting an interview and you're trying to not only judge, is this guy going to be a good worker? You start the interview and it's apparent he's smart. He has good work ethic. But is he going to be good for our culture? Is he going to be friendly in the office? Is he going to be upsetting people? Does he have a generally positive disposition? Does he take well to authority? All of those things, all of the things around the basketball player, not the actual on the court, but what is he as a person? Tyrese Maxey is all of those things. He will be perfect in an office, or in this case, on a basketball court. He is exactly the player you want on and off the court. And if you're any team in the league and you do not have a really top-level point guard, you should be offering this guy a max contract in the offseason. Whether you are the Orlando Magic, wow, think about that. Think about where Orlando would go as they step up, as they set up, as they establish their future. They're currently in the 5th seed in the East. Maybe they'll end up in the 6th seed come playoff time. Who knows? Maybe they'll go into the 4th. Who knows? they have one of the most talented young players in the game, in Paolo Banchero. They have the Wagner brothers. They have Wendell Carter. If you drop Tyrese Maxey into the Orlando Magic, look out. That is going to be an unbelievable team. Within the next 2-3 years, they will be competing for it all. He would be tremendous. I'll give you some more teams that he would be tremendous on. How about the San Antonio Spurs? Victor Wembanyama, they got their anchor. They have their main piece. If you now bring in the point guard who's going to be that guy along with him, and then you just have to build out the rest of the roster around Wemby and Maxey, it's going to be insanity in San Antonio. It's going to be mental. It's going to be off the wall crazy. Let's see. What other teams would be a great fit for Maxey? Who else should make a big play at Tyrese Maxey? I don't think he's a fit on Phoenix with their current roster situation. There are so many teams that would want him. It's hard to pick. Those are the two most obvious ones, where all of the basement teams who don't really have much would probably want to throw the offer at Maxey. And they should. But the teams that I really feel, if they are perfectly suited to right now turn things up, just crank it up a whole bunch of notches and just blast this thing off to the moon, it's the Spurs and the Orlando Magic. And maybe we could do that a little bit closer to the end of the season, or maybe after the season, and when free agency is actually a thing, or we're preparing for it. We'll do a deep dive on the best fit for Tyrese Maxey and maybe for Malik Monk and players like that caliber of free agent. We'll do that at a later point, but certainly it doesn't take much imagination to know that the Magic and the Spurs would be unbelievable if they could bring Tyrese Maxey, and that's something that they should definitely be thinking about, and you should already be within the confines of what's allowed in the league, be sending feelers out to Maxey, be planting a seed on talk shows. You should be getting him used to this idea, because he's a young guy and he is a really good guy by all accounts. And you don't want him to think of himself as a Philly guy and a loyal guy and just want to stay there for a few extra $1 million. You want him to start getting the idea of, what's my future going to look like? What's my future going to look like if I stay in Philadelphia and I'm playing alongside Joel Embiid, who misses a lot of time year after year after year, and outside of us two, we don't really have much around us. Just look at last night's game. You had Nicholas Batum, who is totally gone as a player. He's shooting wide open corner threes, and he can't even make those. So if Nick Batum, whose main strength in his entire career was his three-point shooting, if he can't make the number one easiest shot in basketball right now, which is a wide open corner three-pointer, then what do they have? So think about your future on this Sixers team, and then think about what your future would look like on an Orlando Magic team, where they are a vestibule of they're ready. They have all the pieces. If you inject that point guard in there, it's rocket ship right now. Are the Orlando Magic going to be in the finals in the next 2 years? That's the kind of discussions you'll have if you bring that guy to your team. And the same thing for the Spurs, where the Spurs aren't as well constructed of a roster right now. They're the worst team in the Western Conference. But this is Wembanyama's rookie year. You take Wemby into year 2 with the jump that he's going to make in year 2, and he's already starting to make it at the end of year 1. And you add the point guard in there, and now you just have to fill out the rest of the roster. So you add maybe 1 or 2 more guys around around Wemby and Maxey, you're instantly going to jump up from the bottom of the league, the bottom of the Western Conference, and you're automatically going to, just by next season, be in the low playoff seeding type. And if things go to the best they can possibly go, you'll even be higher than that. And you won't have the Sixers vibe, which is, we are a team that needs to win a championship while Embiid is here. We're running out of time. We need to hold on to everybody and figure out ways to penny pinch at the end of the salary cap and bring in a couple of fringe guys to add some insurance for Embiid and Maxey. That's not going to be the discussion. If he goes to one of these other teams, it's going to be, whoa, first year of Maxey contract. We have him for the next 4 or 5 years. We have Victor. We have Banchero. We have the whole thing set up, the roster around them. It's going to be pure positivity from here out for the next 4 seasons. That would be the discussion. And it would be a whole lot more positive than him being in Philly. And I think you should be trying to already get the narratives out there right now and get Maxey thinking logically and not just become resigned to thinking, hey, I'm a Philly guy. Hey, I'm a nice, honest young player. That should definitely be something on the mind of all the teams in the league that want to pursue Maxey in the offseason. We also had a game following the Knicks Sixers, which was the Pacers went down to a very, very tough place to play in Oklahoma City, and they emerged victorious. They played really well last night. The Pacers have been a tough team to predict the entire season. At the beginning, they played a lot of games where Halliburton was in and out of the lineup. He missed some time, in the games leading up to the All-Star break. He missed a bunch of time. Then he came back, and then even with him, they would have games where they would steamroll teams like Dallas, and then they would lose other games, and it was kind of hard to predict. And they still are hard to predict. Now they moved up to the 6th seed with this win, and let's talk about this game for a couple of minutes. The Pacers played really, really well in the first half, and the Thunder did not. Now, why was this the case? From watching them play, the recipe, and it's easier said than done, but the recipe for playing against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the Oklahoma City Thunder and beating them is the following. SGA likes to get the ball and play in the half court. He likes to create for himself, and he tries to get a shot in close. Typically, he occasionally shoots the 3, but he tries to get in close, and it's more of a mid-range, near-the-basket sort of game. Very shifty, gets a lot of dunks and layups, unassisted, and creates easy shots for himself. Now, if you can put a really good defender on him and get him to take a tough contested shot, get him to miss, and you get the rebound, now Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is in a bad position because there's no way, if you push the ball, he can't get all the way back on defense in time. The ball, and this is just a classic staple of basketball, is that the ball moves faster than anyone can run, right? You can time the fastest player in the league, take a Kuminga or De'Aaron Fox or whoever, and time how long it takes for them to run from under one basket to under the other basket, and then see how long it takes for Nikola Jokic to throw the ball from under his basket to someone streaking down court towards the other basket. It'll be 1 second. Throwing the ball down the court is always quicker, or you can even take multiple passes, and they'll still always be quicker than someone trying to run the length of the floor. So picture this. Gilgeous-Alexander has the ball. He's sizing up his defender at about foul line area. Takes a step back, takes a step in, finds an angle, pulls up, and you get a tough contested shot. Bounces off the rim, missing. And now you have the rebound where Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is still coming down off the shot. Maybe he's looking for a foul, which he does all the time. He's looking at the ref. And now, in a couple of quick passes, you have a massive advantage going down the other way. And this is really what the Pacers did. And the Pacers were the perfect team to do this because they have so much length and athleticism and speed. And they push the ball very well. And when the Pacers are at their best is when they're using Siakam and Turner and some of their other big men, and they're playing really good defense, and they're contesting shots, and they're not giving up free runs to the rim. And Nesmith helps them, and Toppin helps them, and Jalen Smith helps them. So you get all these good athletes. You force the Thunder to take tough shots. You get the rebound, and you drive it down, especially when Gilgeous-Alexander is going so downhill, and he's always trying to get in close to the basket. So when he misses shots, he's in terrible position to get down the floor, and he doesn't always rush his way back down the floor. So easier said than done, because, again, the strategy is predicated on being able to make Gilgeous-Alexander miss some of his shots. Now, you don't need him to miss all of them, but any time that Gilgeous-Alexander gets in close to the basket and misses, and you get the rebound, you have a golden opportunity right there to get quick points back the other way in transition. And that happened a bunch of times in the first half, because Gilgeous-Alexander didn't have a great first half. He did most of his damage in the second half. And for Gilgeous-Alexander, it was just about on par with his usual. He scored his 30 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, but he did most of that damage in the second half. So where Gilgeous-Alexander, if you're able to get him to miss a shot, it's more than just, okay, we now have the ball and we can go down and score, we got to stop. It's almost guaranteed buckets going down the other way, and that was what the Pacers did. And my theory with the Pacers is that they are a great matchup for these teams who like to play in the half court. Because teams score on the Pacers when they run it back at them, but in the half court, the Pacers are able to set their defense. They have a lot of great athletes. So you can start to make sense of, well, why were the Pacers able to handle the Dallas Mavericks so easily on 2 different occasions? Well, Dallas likes playing in the half court a lot. And when the Pacers are able to force misses and run the ball back down the other way on the team that's set in the half court, they get a lot of buckets in transition going the other way. And that was what they did against the Thunder last night. Now, if we really wanted to see if this theory is 100% true, it would be nice to see the Pacers play against the Denver Nuggets, because the Nuggets are perhaps the best half-court team in the NBA. So if we could see the Pacers go out there and beat the Nuggets or handle the Nuggets, or if we could see them play a couple of times and see that they play pretty well against them, then we'd kind of have proven our theory of, yeah, the Pacers are a good team to go against these teams who like to play mostly in the half court. But also, the Pacers are a very tough team to come back on, because when you're down against them, they will make you work for your shots. So think about this. Thunder down 11 points, let's say. Third quarter, they're trying to come back in the game. They're trying to make it to single digits. Gilgeous-Alexander is working, probing, passing the ball off to Wiggins, giving the ball to Wallace, trying to make something work. They throw it into Chet in the corner. The ball's moving around, and the defense is pretty good. They work for a tough shot. They end up settling for a contested shot from Gilgeous-Alexander at the end of the shot clock. Missed. Pacers get the rebound. Thunder are deflated. Immediately, the Pacers run it down the court. A couple of quick outlet passes, and boom, they get a dunk. And now the Thunder just spent 24 seconds trying to get a good shot, and the Pacers got an automatic bucket instantly. And that's very deflating for a team who's trying to come back into the game. And those kind of plays really just sap you of all of your energy and all of your competitiveness and all of your ability to get right back in the game. So they're a tough team to come back on like that. So Indiana, when they get down big, yeah, they're a different team than when they are up. And there's a lot of teams like that. And it's not just a blanket rule in the NBA that you're a better team when you're up than when you're down, of course. But there are some teams, like the Denver Nuggets, are very good at coming back when they're down. And there are some teams who, when they're down, it's basically history. It's done. There are teams like the Timberwolves who are very good when they have a lead, and take last night aside for a second. We're talking about the season at large, but they're very good when they have the lead. But it's tough in a close game. So there are different teams who struggle and play better in different ways at different times. And I would say for the Pacers, they're very dangerous if they can get out to a lead, because they're good at protecting leads. But if they don't get out to a lead, then you might see a different team. And that can kind of explain the diversity of play and the variance of results that you get from this Pacers team on a nightly basis. What other games did we have last night? We can just gloss through the Grizzlies beat the Wizards, the Rockets beat the Spurs even without Şengün, the Celtics demolished the Jazz, and then you had the Timberwolves against the Clippers. And this game was really weird for a couple of reasons. Timberwolves went down big, and then they absolutely stormed back. And it's amazing how many times this happens right before halftime. We just saw this happen in the Cavaliers game against the Suns the night before on Monday night, where the Cavaliers were crushing the Suns, and then right before halftime, the Suns just poured it on and came all the way back in the game. And then you go into the second half, and the game is single digits, and it's relatively close, and now it's just a regular ball game. And the same thing happened here last night, where the Timberwolves were getting killed by the Clippers. It seems like, hey, it's the Timberwolves are just going to get routed. Suddenly, right before halftime, boom, Timberwolves just kick it into high gear, and they close the entire gap, and then the game ends up being a blowout the other way. The Timberwolves win 118-100. The other weird thing about this game was that Kawhi Leonard went to the locker room, and then the camera footage caught him leaving the arena. And apparently he had some kind of spasms. I'm not exactly sure. Thoracic spasms. I don't know too much of what that means. And even if you did know what injury Kawhi Leonard was dealing with, you still wouldn't have that much information because Leonard has his own ways of working through his injuries, and he keeps things under the vest, and it seems like he's going to play. It seems like he's not going to play. So, like, you can never really know until it actually comes time for game time and you see Kawhi Leonard there on the court, whether he's going to play. And then something like this could flare up. And not only is he not going to sit on the bench the rest of the game, not only is he not going to sit in the locker room the rest of the game and get maybe physical therapy and wait for his teammates, he's going to actually leave the actual arena. So I joked on Twitter that, and it's kind of a dark joke, but that Kawhi Leonard may be heading to the new arena for next season, right? Because when he left this arena, and you're wondering why would a guy leave the arena? That's kind of a message that things are serious, or so we thought. But Kawhi is just such an enigma, you can never really understand that perhaps he wasn't really leaving to the new arena, meaning he wasn't leaving this season and saying, hey, I have an injury and I'm going to be done for the year and our playoff chances are now in the toilet. But no, I'm actually still able to hopefully come back this season and still make a playoff run. So very hard to understand. Things are up in the air with Kawhi, and you just hope he's okay. We want to see that team finally be in the playoffs and play with Paul George and with James Harden. And if Kawhi Leonard's not there, then this team is toast. And that would just be the nightmare that happens seemingly once a year to this Clippers team. There comes a point where they just realize injuries again, and we're done. One other thing that I wanted to talk about with the Wolves is I always liked Nickeil Alexander-Walker as a player. When he was a rookie, he showed some good signs, but really from year 2 and on, I always thought, hey, this guy looks pretty good. But he never really got the shine. And even this year, he's been playing very well. I've enjoyed watching him. And when they need a bucket, he randomly comes up and gets that bucket for them. Last night, he had obviously an amazing night. He scored 28 points in 28 minutes. So a point a minute, pretty great in the NBA. But what happened is, now Mike Conley played well last night as well. He also scored 23 points in 27 minutes. So just a great all-around game for them. And Anthony Edwards scoring 37 points in 36 minutes and also adding 8 rebounds and 4 assists to that. So it was just an all-around great game. So it's a bad example to bring because you shouldn't take what happens on a night when everyone plays amazing and use that as an example. But Alexander Walker has really been good the entire year. And I think that when they brought Mike Conley in to try and give more of a veteran presence to a very young team, a lot of the focus got pushed onto Conley in the backup point guard sort of realm. And Alexander Walker, it's a little less clear. Is he a backup point guard? Is he a backup shooting guard? What really is he? But regardless of what you consider him, he's a good player. And I think we need to sort of start viewing him that way. Where we all kind of thought that in the back of our minds, it's becoming clearer and clearer. This is a real guy. Not necessarily do they even need him to be the realest of real guys because they have Anthony Edwards on this team. So Alexander Walker is never going to have to be Steph Curry out there. He's never going to have to be Devin Booker. He has Anthony Edwards already there. But so just think of that in terms of now you have a rotation guy. You have a bench guy. And he's better than a lot of players that other teams have on their benches. For example, like Phoenix. They're so strong in their starting five, and their bench is so weak. Phoenix would love to have Nickeil Alexander-Walker on their bench. Are you kidding? It would give them an opportunity to take Beal and take Booker off the floor every now and then. And he would be able to step in and do some good work. They're stuck with Josh Okogie over there. They're so shallow. So just think about that. Just think about Nickeil Alexander-Walker would be welcome on so many teams in the NBA. As a 7th or 8th man, or even as a 6th man, he's pretty good. So that was just one other thought that I had. Some of the other storyline in that game is everyone's just talking about Norman Powell and the 6th man. Look, Norman Powell's had a great season, but I just don't think you can pull the 6th man award away from Malik Monk. He's too good. And that's the perfect transition for us to start talking about the Kings versus the Bucks. The Kings just walloped them off the opening bell. Kings, like we always say, are a super unpredictable team, and that's really why they're in the standings where they are. It's because they've been unpredictable. They haven't lived up to expectations this year. But with the victory, the Kings moved in front of the Dallas Mavericks, where they kind of were already in front of Dallas, so I shouldn't really say they moved in front of them. They were, at this time, they were in a tie, but they've been in front of Dallas for, most of the time here. Dallas moved up for a brief stint and then moved back down, and then now the Kings were in a tie, and now the Kings with the victory, an impressive victory. The Kings are back in 7, and they're only a half a game back of the Suns in 6, so you have this same setup that we've had for the last while, and it hasn't really changed too much. Once Curry went out and the Warriors lost some games, you've had the Warriors at 10, Lakers at 9, Mavericks at 8, Kings at 7, Suns at 6, and the Pelicans, the recipients of a very easy schedule, have been able to stay at 5. So, Kings, able to take advantage of that. And yeah, Malik Monk is the 6th man of the year. I don't see how you can take that away from him. He's just too good and too important to that team. And he's too consistent. Last night, he only scored 25 points, and most of those came in the first half. I believe he had at least like 17 or close to 20 points in the first half. I'm not going to pull it up right now because we don't need to. But you have the 25 from him, and you have 29 from Fox, 22 from Sabonis. He's the real case. Malik Monk is the real case of the 6th man who has starter-level value. They really use him like a 6th man. And Powell is the same way, but Malik Monk is even better. And even on nights when the Kings lose, Malik Monk is enormously valuable. And it's just like you have two good candidates, and if Malik Monk wasn't in the league right now, Powell would be an easy choice. But Malik Monk is here, and he's the better choice. So I would just say you got to pick Monk for that award. So that sets us up in an interesting place now, where you look at the standings, and we had a couple of things flip-flop. We had the Pacers move up. We had the Sixers move down. And the Miami Heat are right behind the Sixers by half a game. So you'd have to assume, with Embiid continuing to be out, the Sixers throwing out pathetic lineups, that the Miami Heat are going to be in front of the Sixers pretty soon. And the Sixers are going to be an 8th seed. And what the Sixers have in their back pocket right now is that at least they're 5 games ahead of the Chicago Bulls in 9. So at least they probably won't have to drop down. At least they'll have 2 shots to get into a playoff series. Not that that's necessarily what they want. Maybe it would be better for the Sixers to drop out of everything and just get a better draft pick. And then in the Western Conference, you have the Timberwolves beating the Clippers. They've now won, not only have they moved up 2.5 games, not only have they moved up 3 games on the Clippers, they widened the gap to 3 games with only 17 to 18 games left in the season. But they also won the tiebreakers. So they're up 3 games, but it's really 3 games it's really at least 3.5, because the Clippers would have to be totally clearly in front of the Timberwolves in order for them to be the higher seed. So now the Timberwolves have that stranglehold on automatically being a top 3 seed. So I don't know, is that even a good thing for them or not? Maybe it would be better if the Timberwolves dropped to 4 and they got to face the Pelicans in the first round. But I think the Clippers, as long as they can get Kawhi back for the playoffs, the Clippers got to be super thrilled with their position right now, because they're in 4. The Pelicans are in 5. As long as the Clippers and the Pelicans stay in 4-5, whether the Clippers are above the Pelicans or below the Pelicans, doesn't matter. The Clippers are going to love that matchup. And the Pelicans may even like that matchup because the Pelicans can play the Clippers, and if Kawhi Leonard isn't completely healthy, now suddenly the Pelicans have a chance to go to round 2. So I think that's a matchup that both teams have to look at and say, yeah, this is really good for us. Whereas right now, the Timberwolves would be playing against the Phoenix Suns in round 1. And where you thought before that the Timberwolves were going to be a great matchup versus the Suns because the Timberwolves have the size to really hurt Phoenix, where Phoenix only basically has Nurkic, and when Nurkic is out of the game, it's a turnstile going to the hoop. Now that you've lost Karl Anthony Towns, you don't have those twin tower big men there. Maybe you're not as good of a matchup as you once thought you would be. So are the Timberwolves perhaps playing themselves into a worse position right now? Well, guess what? That's seeding. And you have to just go into the playoffs confident with your team playing good basketball and not worry about the seeding too much because it can drive you crazy. Now, as we look to tonight, with what's coming up on the horizon, we have a really full slate of 9 basketball games. We have the Raptors against the Pistons, which is a game you can really skip. Then we have the Nets playing against the Magic, so another great opportunity here for the Magic to get another easy victory. The Magic are in 5. They're 1 game back of the Knicks. So if the Magic get a win tonight, they'll go within half a game of the Knicks and keeping up the intensity. And also moving themselves a little bit further away, they can move a game up on the Pacers who are below them. So a golden opportunity here for the Orlando Magic. Then you have the Nuggets against the Heat. And the last time the Heat played the Nuggets were able to get the victory. This time it's going to be in Miami. And the Miami Heat fans will maintain that the one team they're really afraid of are the Denver Nuggets. So even though Miami is in an 8 seed right now, and you would think that they would have to be worried about winning play-in games, Miami fans will insist that they could beat anybody, even as the lower seed, because they did it last year, so they have the confidence to do it now. And if anything, Miami Heat are even cocky. They're saying stuff like, bring on the Boston Celtics. We want to play Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals. We want that. We welcome that. They are super confident and cocky about it. The one team that the Miami Heat will say they're scared of are the Denver Nuggets. And we'll get another taste of that tonight. The Nuggets are definitely going to bring their A game because they brought their A game consistently. They won, 6 or 7 games in a row and then lost 1 game and then they won another 3 in a row now. So they're playing their best basketball of the season. They're in a firm tie. Now that the Thunder lost last night to the Pacers, the Nuggets are in a firm tie for the 1 seed. Look for the Nuggets to get the win tonight against Miami. Continue to show Miami that they have their number. And then the Nuggets will be the number 1 overall team in the Western Conference. So not a bad night coming up where you get to see this great rematch of the NBA Finals of the Nuggets versus the Heat. Then you have the Pacers, who are playing well right now, and they're going to welcome in the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls played last night. And did the Bulls play last night? I may be confusing myself. Sorry, the Bulls played 2 nights ago. They lost to the Mavericks. They got routed. They had 1 night off, and now they're coming back. They're going to be they're going to continue this. It's not a road trip. It's the start of a road trip for them. So the Bulls are going to Indiana, and they're going to have to play against an Indiana team that did play last night. So it's a back-to-back for Indiana, but Indiana is playing well right now. So I think it's good for Indiana to keep on the gas and let the Indiana Pacers should be able to beat the Bulls, who were getting hot for a period there where DeRozan was playing really well in the end of close games. And now the Bulls have lost a couple. So this is a great opportunity here for the Pacers to continue applying the pressure on the Orlando Magic and to continue moving up in the Eastern Conference standings as we're really getting close to playoff time here. So you have some good ones. And then you have the Hornets versus the Grizzlies, which you can skip. You have the Cavaliers playing their worst basketball right now. And guess what? The Pelicans get another great timing, another well-timed matchup for the Pelicans, where the Pelicans can welcome the Cavaliers in. The Pelicans have had a couple of nights of rest. The Cavaliers now get to continue their losing ways. They just got beat by the Phoenix Suns 2 nights ago, and now they're going to have to take on the Pelicans on the road. So the Pelicans, another great opportunity here to beat the Cleveland Cavaliers. Then you have the Warriors, who have a very tough task ahead. They're going to be playing without Steph Curry against the Dallas Mavericks in Dallas. So look for Dallas, who's also heating up, to get a victory there. And then you have the Lakers going against the Kings. So the Kings are going to have to play back-to-back. And the Lakers had some time to rest. This is going to be very tough. It's going to be a super tough game for the Kings to win on the second night of a back-to-back against the Lakers when the Lakers are know that they have to win games. So much happening here in the Western Conference. You have the Nuggets tonight in a game where they can beat the Heat and take the number 1 seed in the conference. You have the Pelicans who get to welcome the Cavaliers who are struggling. The Pelicans are in the 5 seed and they can keep that. Then you have the Mavericks going against the Warriors. The Mavericks are playing great. The Mavericks can continue to move up. But the Kings now have a tougher game against the Lakers. So you might see the Mavericks win and the Kings lose, and that would flip-flop things. So massive stakes coming up tonight in the NBA. And then you have the Hawks versus the Trailblazers in a game that nobody really cares about. The Hawks are down a couple of players. The Blazers are down an entire NBA team of actual real players. So there you pretty much have it. The exciting games tonight are, can the Magic beat the Brooklyn Nets? The NBA Finals rematch of the Nuggets against the Heat. Can the Nuggets continue to dominate them? The Pacers, will they be able to throw away the Bulls and continue to move up in the East? The Pelicans versus the Cavaliers, where both teams are near the top of their conference. The Pelicans are getting the Cavs at the right time. The Warriors against the Mavericks, who are hot. The Lakers against the Kings. And that pretty much rounds it out. So really, really full slate of NBA action coming up tonight. You can follow the show, as always, on social at NBAV, that's NBAVE, which is short for NBA Avenue. You can email the show at NBAvenue@yahoo.com, that's NBAVENUE at yahoo.com. We're your source for a great time every time, and until next time, we are out.